In this exercise, I'm going to show you how to cover up unwanted details inside of an image by duplicating other regions in an image. I'm looking at a photograph called samsits.jpg found inside the exercise files folder. And this is a pretty nice photograph, my youngest son sitting here in our backyard. But I don't like this thing that's just protruding into the left side of the image. There's just not enough of it. It's just distracting. So I'd like to get rid of this region, and I'd like to patch it up using this region of grass over here. So I'll go ahead and select this area using the lasso tool, another one of Photoshop's selection tools. I'll go ahead and grab the lasso tool, and then I'm just going to drag pretty far out from that edge because there's some dead grass I'm going to need to cover up as well here. And then I'll just drag up and around and release, and that completes the selection. Now, I could try to use something like the patch tool to heal away this area. So I'll go ahead and click and hold on the healing brush icon in order to bring up the flyout menu, and I'll choose the patch tool. And you can use the patch tool with any selection, regardless of how you created it. And I'll drag this selection over to this good area of lawn, and I'll release. And notice, thanks to the way healing works inside of Photoshop, we get this sort of weird halo right here. Just doesn't look right at all. So let's try a different technique. I'll go ahead and undo that modification by pressing Ctrl-Z or Command-Z on the Mac. Let's switch back to the lasso tool here, or one of the other selection tools that won't end up healing the image. And I'm going to go up to the Select menu, and I'm going to choose Modify, and I'll choose Feather, which allows me to soften the edges of the selection. And I'm really going to soften these edges. I'm going to take this feather radius value to 40 pixels, and I'm going to click OK. Now, it's not going to look all that different. The marching ants pretty much trace the same outline they did before. It's a little smoother than it was. But what's really happening is we have a very soft selection outline at work. Now I'm going to drag the selection. And notice that I'm just moving the selection outline. I'm not moving any pixels inside the selection. So I'll move this selection over to this region right here. Maybe move it a little closer to Sammy's hand so that we're catching some of these pixels on the outside here. Then, in order to duplicate this portion of the image, I'll grab the Move tool at the top of the toolbox. And I'll press and hold the Alt key or the Option key on the Mac. And notice my cursor. Notice how it changes. This is what the cursor looks like when I move it into the selection outline and I don't have any key pressed. You can see that I have this little scissors, which is telling me if I try to drag this to a new location, I'm going to leave a hole. That's the color of the background color, so white in my case. I'll go ahead and undo that modification by pressing Ctrl or Command-Z, and instead I'll press and hold the Alt key on the PC or the Option key on the Mac, and notice my cursor changes to the sort of double arrowhead, meaning that I'm going to duplicate the selection. I'll Alt drag it or Option drag it on the Mac over to this region here. Notice that I'm dragging past the edge, so I go ahead and cover up that edge grass, and then I'll release once I've moved that selection into place. And now at this point, I can go ahead and deselect the image by going up to the Select menu and choosing Deselect. And notice that I have a pretty darn good edge going here. Now, if it's not good enough, if you feel like there's still some stragglers right there at the edge that things don't really match up very well, that's when you'd go and grab the healing brush. And I would Alt-click or Option-click over in a region of the grass toward the top of the image. And the reason I'm using this grass toward the top, not at the bottom, is because the amount of grass and the focus of the grass matches this region, where it wouldn't if we were trying to clone from down here. So I'll Alt-click or Option-click up in this region right there, and then I'll just kind of drag around these areas in order to fill in some of this detail and heal the seams between the grass. And oh, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and undo that last modification. It's going to work out better if after I paint inside of this region, then I go ahead and click on Aligned. So we're aligning from the original source point, and then I'd go ahead and paint in some of these regions like so. And it looks pretty good. So just to give you a sense of what we were able to accomplish here, I'll go to the File menu, and I'll choose the Revert command. So this is the before version of the image with the distracting detail. This is the after version of the image, thanks to duplicating a region and moving it into a different location.